All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Agents Unleashed podcast, the show that helps you to sort the signal from the noise in the fast-paced world of agentic AI. I'm your host, Thomas Maybrier, and I'm a producer at Valerie, one of the core contributors to Olas. On this week's show, I've got an interview with one of the most influential people in Web3 right now, Tomasz Stańczak. Tomasz has spent years shaping Ethereum's infrastructure as the founder of Nethermind, and now he's helping to guide the foundation itself. In our conversation, we explore the foundation's vision for Ethereum's next chapter and how the cultural DNA of Ethereum, like its long-standing support for cypherpunk values, continues to guide its path. We also get into the growing intersection of AI and blockchain, how the foundation is thinking about AI integration, what role AI agents might play, and much more. This episode is sponsored by Sigil. Sigil is one of the top-performing crypto hedge funds worldwide. It's been run by crypto natives since 2018. Learn more at www.sigilfund.com. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about Olas and a little bit about Agents Unleashed. So, Olas is the best way for anyone to own and monetize an AI agent, and that includes people just like you. You can learn more about how to do that at olas.network, and Agents Unleashed isn't just a podcast, it's also the premier event series for people interested in agentic AI. Events have been held all over the world with thousands of in-person attendees and more than 100 different speakers and presenters. The next event has just been announced. It'll be held October 1st in Singapore. To learn more about this event, head to olas.network/agents-unleashed, or check out the description box on YouTube or the show notes wherever you get the podcast. Okay, here's my conversation with Tomasz Stańczak. Tomasz, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. Maybe we can start with a brief introduction about who you are and what you're currently working on.
Sure. Hi, great to meet you. Thank you so much for the invitation. So I'm currently a co-executive director at the Ethereum Foundation, and this is the role of helping with strategy and coordination management of the foundation that is helping Ethereum to coordinate on the other side with all the different teams that help to build the protocol in the future. So our role is not only to just think about how the foundation itself is assigning maybe grants for the future, but also to help everyone communicate, to deliver changes to Ethereum that would really reflect what is the feedback from the ecosystem community to build. And my role before that, so I've been building for the last 8 years Nethermind, which is the Ethereum infrastructure company. Before that, I was in finance at Citibank and Rokos. Yeah, that's me.
Well, what's it like to have a co-director role? It's not unusual, but it isn't exactly common. So what has it been like so far? It's been a few months now, right?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. So Xiaowei is the other co-executive director, and we very naturally split the roles. Xiaowei has lots of impact in the areas of she was in treasury policy. She does a lot of internal management, budgeting, solutions, and so on. Also, my role is a bit more focused in the West, and Dan Xiaowei is in Taiwan, so she has very naturally been a bit more active in Asia. And then our communication is great. There's always like opportunity to receive feedback, to slow down when it's not needed, to accelerate when it's needed. And yeah, I think that it was a bit of a question for me as well, how it will go, but it goes very smoothly. And soon we'll have a longer meeting in person, like a few days of discussions. So that will be a first opportunity for us as well to review how we want to adjust it. But I haven't seen any problems until now.
Yeah, very cool. So when you first stepped into this role, and also when you first got involved with Ethereum more generally, what about the Ethereum mission or roadmap resonated with you personally?
Sure. I think that the entire vision as set from Vitalik like many years ago, the way it resonated with me was there was much space for curiosity and exploration while building with all the values of the ideas that in the future, the entire world economy, all the coordination will operate on top of Ethereum. And when you said the visions so far, it really gives you all the building blocks of Ethereum that have to be built, and so many aspects of the world economy and coordination that will have to be built from zero. So I really felt like this is the canvas to operate on that will attract many developers, builders, thought leaders, and that's what happened. Really working on Ethereum creates space for rethinking everything that happens in society, in governance, in economy. It attracts people that really enjoy those conversations and challenges. And apart from it, so like when you think about maybe what foundation talks about the most, the four values that we set, open source solutions, that's really so important to be able to satisfy that curiosity of how the things work in the society, which things that you feel that are broken, why they're broken, what's the internal structure, internal code base for those. So open source for Ethereum means not only open source code base. I think it's generally open source society, all the processes that happen for them to be transparent. And then you have privacy, then you have security of the protocol, and you have censorship resistance. So that's all of these ideas that really tell you here everything that is built, we're building it together, full freedom to build on top of that layer. Nobody will stop you. And security of the protocol results from really the structures, the governance structures, the underlying infrastructure design of the protocol. So it gives you lots of space. It also protects the entirety of the solution, entirety of the protocol.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few core kind of like areas that inform the Ethereum Foundation approach, with the theme of the show being artificial intelligence and how it affects AI agents. I think all of those sound quite related to me, but are there maybe one or two strategic priorities that you think the next 3 to 5 years of the Foundation's direction should be about, or is there a way that you're thinking about those?
Sure. We are focusing at the moment on the most critical protocol changes. So we have 2 network upgrades that are lined up. One is Fusaka that we're planning for November this year. And then the second one is Amsterdam, which if we do everything very well, then should be next year in May, June. And this is already like a big challenge for coordination between the all-core devs, Foundation, all the other teams that collaborate with all-core devs, or test or provide feedback. Then, so if this is around 9 months from now, we also have DevConnect in the middle. So in November, there is DevConnect Argentina. It's a big event for entire community. Should be 10 to 20,000 people in Argentina talking about the applications on Ethereum, building together, exchanging ideas, and generally, I think, celebrating the next 10 years of Ethereum as well. The other thing, so you asked about 3 to 5 years. So after these 9 months, we have to have a lot of discussion and execution around technologies that will make Ethereum feel like the next gen Ethereum. So lots of changes, suggestions that are coming from Justin Drake and other researchers that talk about post-quantum security, that talk about acceleration, like scaling of the network in a way that shows the more orders of magnitude because of the fundamental changes to the protocol. Those changes are already in preparation. So we know what we will be doing, but the shape of those has to be defined a bit more in details. And I think what we also start talking about is that transition to all the new exciting technologies around AI that very naturally Ethereum is the coordination layer, verification layer for AI. That if AI wants to operate together, then they need some kind of replacement for what we use nowadays for trusting each other when executing transactions. So we use institutions, and AIs potentially could use institutions between themselves if they can create, like the agents, if they can create institutions, but most likely it will be much more efficient to use verification, mathematical verification than blockchain provides. So transition to that, like very clear definition of what we expect from the automation of robotics, AI agents, tooling, payment networks for AI on Ethereum. This will be a big part of what we will start working on. Well, we already do, but we'll just refocus a bit more on thinking how protocol should support it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely agree with you that it can be very logical in a lot of use cases to have AI agents use a more modern, decentralized kind of coordination layer to minimize trust rather than trying to shoehorn them into these existing institutions we have, which, well, one, haven't always worked, and two, haven't always served the end user. That's something that I know my community cares a lot about. I have one more question about the culture of Ethereum, which Ethereum has always had a unique culture aligned with like cypherpunk values. As the network and the ecosystem grows, how do you keep those values at the core, but also react and respond to all of these potentially new use cases and new people coming into the ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So there is cypherpunk culture, and it's, I think, one of many cultures that coexist on Ethereum. And what is very important is not to lose the cypherpunk culture. It defines some aspects of Ethereum that are really not served by any other groups. The cypherpunk group is very specific. It works on privacy and really dedicates a lot of time, attention, cares a lot about privacy. And I think it's really hard to deliver privacy in another way. Like other people are ready for too many compromises, and we need to understand where privacy really works. At the same time, maybe that those compromises come with the pragmatism of maybe Foundation and our institutions as coordinators, looking at what comes from the cypherpunk as feedback, and as usually should be a harsh feedback on where we moving too slowly, where we are not aggressive enough of introducing privacy, and then thinking of what of it we can introduce. Now, if we ignore it, then we'll start, like we'll lose that group of people. Well, we wouldn't. I think that they would just really, really fight for maintaining that status of Ethereum really caring about privacy. So we would probably see problems with the kind of unified vision of leading Ethereum together. So now how all of us can coordinate the care about privacy, but also being like very open for everyone who is building on Ethereum. So like delivering the best solutions for enterprises, delivering best solutions for those who just want to trade and explore, for developers, for the users that need payment systems. And some of them, for the 99% of the time, will not care about privacy. For 1% of time, maybe they will. So this is important. Combining it together, it's not necessarily tricky, but it's important to pay attention to every week and thinking, did we drift away? And then go back and think how to reintroduce privacy concepts to the roadmap, to the vision over and over again.
Yeah, very cool. We'll shift tone a little bit here and get into maybe a more AI and AI agent focused discussion. Well, first, I'm curious what your experience with AI agents has been recently. Could be on or off chain. Have you tried any, found any that are useful? Do you use them every day? Not at all?
I've been playing with agents personally, but by doing the implementations last year, and then my work was mostly on the working with the teams and discussions, coordination, building solutions. That was mostly at the time with Nethermind. So at the foundation, we're not like actively building. We have the team that is responsible for automation of all our processes on the ecosystem development side, but it's a team that we've just established. So maybe we'll see more agents work there. Now, on the infrastructure building, like agentic solutions building sides. So I've been working with teams that build virtual employees as agents on Slack, the auditor agents. We've been working with Virtuals team on the Nethermind was co-deploying with for Virtuals, the Iris agent. Then we've been building the audit arena. So this is arena for back bounties for multiple agents. So it shows both the challenges, opportunities, like the challenges and really clarifying how the agents should behave, the expectations of you that you would like the agents to really feel like they're autonomous, and then having to just like handhold them on all the detailed stacks. So yeah, that's been my experience so far. So probably over a year of building various item solutions within the blockchain space for agents, a bit of like agentic experience, AX, and now also looking at the tooling around MCP and the A2A, but mostly by just allocating attention, coordination for the teams that prepare the tooling for Ethereum. So we build in groups where various builders of tools can discuss and tell us, give us feedback of what's being built.
Today's show is sponsored by Sigil Fund, a top-performing regulated crypto hedge fund. Since 2018, Sigil has been delivering above-average performance via smart exposure to crypto markets. Now, after 4 years of private testing, they're opening up a new strategy for qualified investors, Sigil Stable. Sigil Stable focuses on yield farming and market-neutral strategies, providing returns uncorrelated with market prices, taking the stress out of crypto volatility. All of this comes with daily NAV reporting for investors and no lockup on the investment. Learn more at www.sigilfund.com. All right, back to the show. Cool. So you've already kind of touched on a little bit of the answer to my next question, which is a reference to a post that you recently did on X. So this interview is taking place in the summer of 2025. So we just had the 10-year anniversary of Ethereum. We had some good posts from leaders in the community about the previous 10 years, and you were talking about what the vision for the next 10 years would be. And you said that over the next 10 years, technologies like AI, robotics, and blockchain will reshape everything. And then that Ethereum had a role to play in each. So maybe we can expand a little bit about the Ethereum role in AI. Like, where do you see it today, and what's your 10-year vision?
Yeah, sure. So nowadays we don't see that many agents on top of Ethereum doing something very naturally integrated with the payment rails, but we see lots of experimentations and fun ongoing. So I mentioned some of the protocols before, but also we see the first tools. So we see Coinbase with 402 for the payments for agent solutions. And then we see explorations from the teams like Flashbots X that are building for the accounts for agents. Like the idea of maybe that identity arises from privacy for agents, the ability of maintaining the account. Really, the account is more important than identity. Then I've been doing the explorations of the like agentic governance, replacing slowly the core dev roles or the coordinator roles with the agents. So this is what we see now. And I think that's much more that will be very relevant in the future. And this is 10 years, the next 10 years, right? So in general, when we look at Ethereum nowadays, it seems that promise of decentralization of finance already has progressed a lot, right? So we have a bit of this unstoppable changes on Wall Street, around the world. The financial systems, they use stable coins, they use decentralized finance, they start integrating those. And it's great to see that. It really starts feeling like a massive win for Ethereum. And then the next 10 years is really asking big questions about what else creates the fear of centralization. Very naturally, the answer comes as AI and robots. Like we see the games of humanoid robots, but somewhere underneath we're asking very scary questions about how the future looks with AI and robotics, and where's our role and how we can participate in coordination and how we can introduce safety. And I think Ethereum has multiple components. Obviously, it's a payment infrastructure. It's a world ledger. It's in a way a set of technologies related to cryptography and verification that are used for Ethereum accounts, but also exist independently and can serve for general verification of computation. And all of this seems to be very naturally supporting the ambient trust for agents and people together. And it just simply seems that agents using traditional institutions feels too inefficient, because then would they trust a group of people that continue to maintain those institutions, or would they establish the agentic systems, AI systems to manage those institutions, but then do keep the paperwork and the processes from the last centuries? Most likely not. So you can replace much of those institutional systems with deployments on Ethereum, and then agents talking to each other can just verify the claims, verify the ownership, verify the governance systems. And I think that any position, any role within those interactions can be either filled in by a human operator or agentic operator. And everywhere where you need the escalation of failures, you can escalate that to the human operator. And in some situations, maybe the agentic operator will be very naturally the best possible. So when we think about maybe autopilots on the planes or cars, for now we may see systems that are escalating to the human control if something goes wrong. But usually, in most of the cases in the future, we'll be expecting actually that systems that require very, very fast reaction times and some kind of set of predictable risks, that we would like to escalate them always to agentic operator and say that as a human, they should probably disengage from more like a leisure activity of driving in a moment of emergency. So that's what I see in many situations. But for governance and vision setting, I hope that will stay there for a long, long time. And that Ethereum of next 10 years is really defining the governance systems and infrastructure for payments that places human places us wherever we feel that we want to apply our creativity the most. While obviously we'll be asking questions, where is really limit of the creativity of systems that we create now. So this will be challenging, interesting time. And I think Ethereum simply gives the tools to set up much more efficient, much more structured way, transparent way than the traditional institutions will do.
Yeah, and that does make a lot of sense when you consider, in my opinion, just the sheer scale of agentic behavior and like transactions and the speed at which they will be, well, already are interacting with each other, um, and the chain. Like, it makes sense to strengthen that layer where all of that ownership happens, rather than, as I said before, trying to find a place that it fits within legacy systems. It makes, in my opinion, it makes a lot more sense to just expect that we'll use these systems more and more, and that having an ownership, a transparency layer will be incredibly important. So yeah, very cool to hear.
Yeah, it's an intuition, but also maybe a big question. Will there be a possibility that the agents themselves will decide, like the AI decides that it can operate so fast in the fuzzy logical space, fuzzy verification, that it will somehow discard those blockchain solutions and cryptographical verification, or just use some kind of more traditional networks of trust related from multiple agentic identities talking to each other and saying that, yes, you can execute this. Maybe answering those questions will be very interesting thing for the next 10 years too.
Yeah, absolutely. On a sort of related note, are there any misconceptions that you hear a lot from when you talk with people about how Ethereum will support and interact with AI today and in the future, like things that you think people commonly misapprehend?
I think for me, maybe I think more of my own misconceptions that keep appearing, and then suddenly I realize that feels different and they might be nuanced. Like particular idea of identity of an agent. I think that without verification of models behind, the agentic identity sometimes has much less of a meaning. So it may have a meaning in a context of saying that in this particular time, agent represents a particular person, and identity is almost like bound to an owner, and then it makes sense even as the model keeps changing behind. But if the model itself, if the agent itself represents some identity, then really it doesn't provide the same guarantee of consistency as we have with a human. Like the identity of a human represents our way of behaving and our knowledge and our past reputation. And it's really that we cannot replace the model behind. It's ourselves. So that identity really represents ourselves and will not upgrade suddenly to that different model. We can change gradually over time. And I think with agents that change is more drastic. You can simply replace it entirely, delete the memory. Question is how quickly we'll be able to combine the concept of identity with like fully verifiable models. And I think there is a bit of misconception about what identity for an agent really means. And it might be that, for example, in the situations where we have to have the governance mechanism, the identity will matter less than some kind of quantifiable amount of computation that you assign to a task. And instead of saying that we have free agents, we can say that somebody is represented by 20% of the attention, and somebody is represented by 40% of the total attention assigned to the task. And that's how the governance will be resolved. Maybe the other things is the agents existing on chain, somehow that nuance of really an account of an agent existing on chain rather than agents themselves. But this is broader misconception about how smart contracts operate, that they do not really operate on chain that much, and they usually, with the nowadays vision of Ethereum and general like modern approaches to computation on blockchain, they execute everything off chain and then just execute some ledger operations and verifications, very quick verifications on chain. And this way, agent as well simply exists outside of the blockchain and executes all the computation outside of the blockchain, but provides sets of proofs for verification and claims about some properties, about the owner interaction, the owner claims on being representative of some groups or owning some assets.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm going to reflect this back to you and tell me if you think I've gotten it. In the first example, what it made me think was that if I were to change the way that I behave and make decisions because of the persistence of like identity and quote unquote consciousness, whatever that is, even if I change, I have a kind of a persistence of identity. But if I'm an AI agent, it's reasonable to say that by swapping out the underlying model that's making the decisions, it's a little bit difficult then to maybe say that they are exactly the same thing. And like that, there's a lot of strange potential implications. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think that maybe the only thing that we say that would maintain the identity is the private data aspect. And there's a saying that identity is defined by privacy, says that you may swap the model entirely, but if you maintain context, then that context itself may define the identity if it's private. Because it's not shared with anyone else, then it means that if you talk to the same model and the next model, but they can share context, a history of conversations, that really that history of conversations define the identity of the model that you're talking to. Even if, sure, I can evolve over time by learning, by reading more, by changing my behavior, by growing up emotionally. So in a way, the model changes, but I still have some memories and private conversations with people that defined my identity.
Right. I'm glad that's the example that you chose to give because it is quite thought-provoking and not something that I had really considered in that way before. Okay, so we're getting kind of close to the end here. So for this next section, we won't hold you to any of these predictions, but over the next couple of years, like, what do you think will happen with AI as it relates to the user interface? Like, how do you think people will use AI? Will it be asking autonomous agents to do something? Will it be voice instructions? Will we stick with the chat interface? Like, what do you think might happen?
I think it'll be combination of everything, right? Even between people, sometimes we switch to voice, sometimes we switch to text, depending on how asynchronous or synchronous our conversation wants to be. They should be the same with the way we use AI, right? For anything longer, non-urgent, for some reports, when I have to really compose my own thinking, writing in text the prompts and waiting for a response coming somewhere later makes perfect sense. It's a bit like giving someone a task that would take a week to complete, and defining first the briefing, the details of what I would like to achieve, and working on it together. But then also I've been driving for the last 2 days a bit more, and I had a chat open with the voice conversation, and an ongoing conversation was pretty smooth, where I could ask questions about events as they were happening, or think about scheduling and planning of the trip and my calendars. So this seems natural, right, as well, like for anything where you quickly come to very brief, short ideas, and you're busy also with something else like driving. And then there is obviously question about brain-computer interfaces, how quickly we'll see progress here, where we'll be able to start really having those interactions with the AI systems by producing questions and receiving some kind of immediate input through the PCI. This is a bit more futuristic, but also, well, we see presentations, we see things working. I would say this maybe a few more years ahead, I guess, but that's not that I feel really like a best predictor in that space. What is important for me is maybe how we interact with blockchain. I've always been saying that our interaction with blockchain always is tainted by the fact that there is some intermediary that has to interpret all that verification, that we ourselves, we do not really verify blockchain, even if we run everything on our own machines. So we don't download nodes, we run our own wallet solutions, and still we trust the software that it does it correctly. Then it means, do we write the software ourselves? And in a way, that's how I started, right? I worked in the past as a developer of Ethereum, so I built a big part of the software that is verifying things. But even then I would use maybe block explorers and wallets that would be from third parties. So there's always something in between that I had to place trust in. And having agents to really interpret reality and use blockchain and an agent that maybe is operating on our device as an edge device that tries to remove as much trust as possible. It's great. And then we can build the trust with our agent over longer time, because I guess at the beginning we still have to trust somehow the verification of the agent training and the device that we are using. It's always hard to remove the intermediary layer and say that, yes, I verified things to the core, to their mathematical concepts. And then agents running on the edge devices really telling us about the reality, about the truth of the news that we're receiving. We probably will see something like no more of a public feed of the social media, but the feed that is just specifically generating for us. And the same media like movies, videos, music that is generated for us and in real time, depending on our moods, and edge devices, AIs that will help us to realize what the reality is and how to switch, when to switch out between the different interactions. So I think that blockchain will be needed for verifying the reality, like the news and reality somewhere distant in remote places to verify signatures. And the devices that will carry will just help us to translate all those verifications or initiate all those verifications based on the questions about the reality that we have. And everywhere where we'll probably care less about the reality, those systems will just generate realities for ourselves, and those will be a bit more training realities that will try to exist it, play with, which may feel a bit like tracks or explorations or visions. But then there'll be some place where we'll just all agree together that this is reality, where we share the value and ownership and property. I feel it will survive. That is like very, very natural for us to feel of a single reality and the property and ownership within that reality and the status in that reality. And that's where also naturally the world ledger defines what belongs to whom, what defines whom, and how we share the value between ourselves.
Great answer. Definitely. You touched a little on the futuristic side, but I can already feel a need for that kind of verification in my own like day-to-day life on social media, which has already changed so much that I can already really feel the desire for that verification of reality layer, and even better if it's customized to me. So I think we'll leave it here. Would you like to give a call to action or a place you'd like to maybe direct people's attention, things that you think they should be checking out?
I definitely think that, there are Ethereum hubs appearing in different cities, which attract people from various industries building on Ethereum. So whether it's, art, NFTs, or AI, robotics, and more cryptography. So I invite people to just search for others that are building within the space, but are very, very different from what they are building. For now, on the enterprise side, we love people who understand financial products and understand how to apply agentic AI systems to the world of finance, for them to work with people who have experience of building blockchain infrastructure for many years. And I think it's impossible for people to build really groundbreaking solutions single-handedly without those collaborations with others that have totally different angle and understand the product. So those who understand the product to understand tech, and the other way around. That's my call to action. Like, just really search for something that's outside of bubble, outside of your skill set, and team up with people that can build with you.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been great to have you on the show. Really enjoyed it, and I'm sure my audience is going to get a lot out of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me once again.
All right, cool. So that was my conversation with Tomasz Stańczak, the co-executive director of the Ethereum Foundation. I want to thank Tomasz again for joining us and giving us a behind-the-scenes look at how Ethereum is preparing for its future. A few takeaways that really stood out to me. One is the Foundation's deep commitment to community input, how seriously Ethereum is approaching AI integration, and the reminder that cultural values like transparency, decentralization, resilience still shape Ethereum as much as the technical roadmap does. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, a colleague, a coworker, and please help us to reach new people with a review, a rating, or a share on social media. All of these will help me to grow the show and reach new people. I'd also like to invite you to take the listener survey. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be collecting feedback from listeners that I'll use to guide the direction of the show. And one lucky respondent will win a prize of 500 Olas tokens, subject to some terms and conditions. You can find a link to take that survey in the description box on YouTube or the show notes wherever you get the podcast. All right, that's all I have for you this week. I want to thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Agents Unleashed podcast.